Welcome to another viewing and reacting video, brought to you by me, the J Dude. And today I'm gonna be taking a look at a review video, more like a review mini-series. You see, every October, Channel Awesome does this like Twilight-Tober ZOne thing. Yeah, it's called Twilight-Tober ZOne. No, it's not the Nostalgia Critic doing it, it's somebody else. Every year he does reviews of individual episodes of the Twilight Zone in order, numerical order. I'm gonna be taking a look at one of his videos called The Mike Casey, because when I was younger I used to play Little League Baseball, like the Eagle Rock Baseball League. So let's take a look. Spooky.
The Mighty Casey has quite the history behind it. It's so interesting, in fact, that it's more entertaining than the episode itself. Before we get into the breakdown of the story, let's discuss what exactly happened and how this installment of the series could have been very different.
Oh, if you listen very carefully, you can hear they're playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. The instrumental version, not the lyrical version.
For not so good reasons. This episode was supposed to air much earlier in the first season, but as you can see by its order here, it ended up being released as the second to last in that initial run. This was because of extensive reshoots done 8 months after the original production.
8 months?
The manager of the Hoboken Zephyrs,
Ouch.
the baseball team in the episode, was at first played by Paul Douglas. They went through the entire shoot and wrapped production. The next day, Douglas died of a heart attack.
That's
His symptoms
sad.
were said to be very visible on camera, with frequent shortness of breath and...
Oh. They're showing a clip from the original 1951 Angels in the Outfield. I have the remake, the 1994 remake to be exact, on DVD.
discoloration. It was to the point where Rod Serling called Douglas his manager to complain. Apparently, he had been known to have issues with drinking, and that was the thought Serling had, but Douglas's oncoming heart attack was the actual culprit. The post-production team cut together a full version of this episode, which Serling showed to the executives at CBS. Rod was understandably uncomfortable with using some of this man's last moments in what was supposed to be a lighthearted comedy. He wanted CBS to not air it and just eat the costs, but they didn't go along with that. The executives also shot down Serling's idea of paying for reshoots with another actor in the lead role. So, Rod paid $27,000 out of his own pocket.
Ouch, that's gotta hurt. Financially, at least.
To hire a replacement, Jack Warden, and reshoot the scenes needed. With Warden now playing the main character, this was not a short reshoot. They used everything they could from the original production, including close-ups of the other actors and wide shots, but everything with the manager character had to be filmed again. In the end, Serling did what he always did and got the job done. We'll discuss the results in a minute, but this was unquestionably the more ethical route to go down, and in my opinion, says a lot about Rod Serling's admirable qualities.
Indeed.
The Hoboken Zephyrs are by far and away the worst team in Major League Baseball. Their manager, Mouth McGarry, is pessimistic on the chances of the club's improvement anytime soon.
Sound familiar? Wink wink. 80s film? Wink wink.
One day, he's approached by a Dr. Stillman, who brings in a young man named Casey for a pitch.
Is it just me, or does Dr. Stillman kind of look like Harry Kissinger or Henry Kissinger? If you see this video, you know what I'm talking about. At least you'll know what I'm talking about.
Trial. Casey proves to be like nothing the manager has ever seen, and that's when Stillman tells McGarry the truth. Casey is a robot.
A robot?
McGarry agrees to take on the humanoid machine as his new ace pitcher as long as Stillman keeps quiet about what he really is. The doctor concurs, and Casey leads the Zephyrs on a huge win streak. But when he's beamed in the head by a ball a few months into his run, the team...
It's been a long time since I heard the word beamed. Really? Beamed. That sounds like a phrase you use when you get hit, when you get hit by beans or a can of beans. I haven't heard beamed in a long time, so...
The doctor examines the pitcher. Naturally, he discovers Casey isn't exactly what he appears to be.
What do you mean? So is he not a robot? Is he a robot or not? Or is he like a cyborg? Or is he like a puppet? Or what?
This is one of the only episodes with 2 directors credited. Alvin Ganzer led the original production with Paul Douglas, but was unavailable for the reshoots. Robert Parrish was then brought in to finish the scenes with Jack Warden in the central role. I'm sure Douglas's portrayal of another baseball manager, Duffy McGovern, in the 1951 version of Angels in the Outfield, landed him this part, but seeing Warden's comedic delivery and dry wit works as well as can be here.
All right, I see.
Rod Serling's strength was never writing for comedies, at least not in the Twilight Zone. But this isn't too bad. It's a very basic premise that's raised a bit by Warden's acceptable performance as the ornery McGarry. If you recall, Warden appeared in another episode earlier in the season.
I made Casey. I built him. He's a robot.
Not a robot!
This guy just can't get away from robots.
Robot!
Right, robots. The Lonely is without a doubt a much better, more memorable episode. The Mighty Casey has a few charming moments, though. The actors do a fine job, and as a baseball fan, it was nice to see Rod take on a story featuring the sport. They even shot this episode at Wrigley Field. No, not that dump. The Los Angeles version that was torn down in the late 60s.
Oh, LA had their own version of the Wrigley Field? I did not know that. I didn't know Los Angeles had their own version of Wrigley Field. I did not know that. I only know the one in Chicago. Go figure.
Minor league teams played at the park the most, and movies and TV shows used it frequently. When I was a kid, I used to watch reruns of the old Home Run Derby show on ESPN Classic, and they shot at this very stadium during this same time period. So it was nice to discover that little connection.
The twist. Spoilers. Still, that music was creepy when he plays that every time when it's time to reveal the twist / spoilers. He does that every time.
After Casey is beamed by a comebacker, which is not seen on screen, even though they show him get hit in the head earlier, and the doctor discovers he's not human, the commissioner is brought in to disqualify him from playing. But McGarry and the general manager, Beasley, try to convince the commish that Casey is basically human. They decide what's missing is a heart.
Number 5 is alive. Or in this case, Casey is alive.
Can he be human without a heart? Beasley hasn't got a heart either. He owns 40% of the club.
No, I know I got a heart. 'Cause it's breaking. Yeah, that does sound like a Tin Man scenario if you ask me.
That's it, gentlemen. He doesn't have a heart.
Dr. Stillman pledges to give Casey a heart, and he's allowed to continue playing. The pitcher shows up just before a big game against the Giants with a very different attitude. He smiles now, has emotions and empathy. Because of this, he refuses to strike out any of the batters on the other team, which means the Zephyrs get walloped. After the game, Casey quits the team to try and help people as a social worker. Stillman explains that giving him a heart without the experience to understand competitiveness resulted in his current attitude. Creator and creation walk away, but not before Stillman leaves Casey's blueprints as a memento. Inspiration then strikes McGarry, and he rushes out to Stillman with an idea. Serling explains in the ending narration that the team was abolished soon after, but unsubstantiated reports have suggested that they moved out west under a new name with a pitching staff that had stuff like nothing human, and won them several world championships. Again, this isn't a strong episode of the show, but I think it deserves some leeway considering the troubled production history behind it. Plus, it has an old-fashioned newspaper montage, come on. It's not one I would go out of my way to rewatch, but if you ever want to take your chances at the plate against the mighty Casey, he'll be waiting for you in the Twilight Zone.
This part's creepy too, Lightning. Well, there you have it. That was my viewing and reaction to Twilight-Tober's own review of the Mighty Casey. If there's anything else you want me to view and react to, please let me know in the comment section below.